Just a quick disclaimer here. I feel like I could have written this script better, but overall I got my points across, even if now I hate some of the language I used. I just really wanted to get this video out because I've been working on it for a while and I didn't want the effort to go to waste. I would have liked to give better reasoning to why I hated some of the decisions they made for this film. Like, for example, just saying that the Light Fury seems very feminine with no personality. I really honestly could have put more detail into how that seems quite dumb and openly sexist, but I didn't. I also would have liked to mention how Astrid's character from the first film had much more personality compared to the other two films, but overall I feel like I barely scratched the surface of it. Looking at this video now, I feel like I worded some of this very poorly, but it's not terrible. Maybe one day I'll make a more in-depth review. I also wanted to thank these people on screen right now for their compilation clips they had put on YouTube. There were certain scenes I could not find out what episodes they were in, so I ended up using some of the clips they had in their own videos. Anyway, thank you for listening. Enjoy this rather shitpost of a video. How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World is one of those movies that the more I think about it, the less I like it. I was super excited to see How to Train Your Dragon 3 when it came out, and when I did eventually see the film, I loved it. However, even on my first watch, I felt like something was a bit off. But for the most part, I ignored the feeling and continued to just praise the film. The unsettling feeling has stuck with me, and after seeing My Universe in a Box video about the film, I felt very inspired to share my own thoughts, so here they are. In this movie, Toothless plays such a jerk that his persona completely changes. His thoughtful and devoted nature has been molded into the marketable dog dragon. The series' core theme is their friendship, and Toothless has risked his life more than once to defend Hiccup. However, the Light Fury attempts to murder Hiccup twice, and Toothless just doesn't seem to care. Throughout the movie, Toothless places Hiccup in danger without giving it a second thought, which is a stark contrast to the protective character he exhibited in the first two films. In order to simp for the Barbie doll dragon he recently met, Toothless abandons his best friend and is willing to sacrifice all the dragons living under his reign, all because he wants to fuck a dragon he barely knows. In addition to becoming a jerk, Toothless has also become completely brain dead. When a big dragon causes havoc on Berk at the beginning of the film, Toothless needs to be reminded that he is the alpha and that he can in fact stop it. In a later scene, while Hiccup works on his cherished map from the second movie, Toothless starts to drool all over it and begs for Hiccup's prosthetic limb as though it's a chew toy. In comparison to the second film, Toothless actually helps Hiccup build his map, and he understands the significance of it and what it means to Hiccup. Everyone treats Hiccup the same, if not worse, than in the first film. Tough Nut constantly talks down to him.
That you're more than just a malnourished runt.
Snotlout mocks his dead dad.
Died and made you chief.
Astrid gives terrible advice and insight and talks down to him as well.
I mean, look at you, embracing change.
All of us.
Seriously. And abandon our home of 7 generations?
The home your father left you to protect.
He's probably not even coming back. What?
You gave him his freedom, Hiccup.
What the f?
And Hiccup's mother, Velka, never defends him. This was a problem in the Homecoming special. No one respected Hiccup at all. It was painful to watch, and after seeing Homecoming and How to Train Your Dragon 3 and how everyone treats Hiccup after everything he has proven and done, he should have just left in the first film.
Looks like you and me are taking a little vacation. Forever.
That last point kind of trickles into this one, and I have a fair bit to say about it. All the side and supporting characters were out of character. Tough Nut believes he's above Hiccup and talks down to him. Rough Nut turns into a dumbass times 10. Snotlout cried at Stoic's funeral, and then proceeds to bully his son.
When Hiccup blows at his chief, I'm next in line.
Who died and made you chief?
And hit on his wife.
Call me Valka. It has been a year.
First name basis.
Pretty sure Snotlout's available.
He only has eyes for your mom.
Velka does nothing to support or defend Hiccup from the other tribe members when they talk down to him, and she's the first to suggest giving in to Grimmel. Maybe I'm just used to the TV series, but I've grown to love these side characters. Their character writing was never phenomenal, but we were given so much more development between riders and defenders of Berk and Race to the Edge. One of my complaints with the first two How to Train Your Dragon films is the side characters came across as a lot worse than what they could be. Both of these films were remarkably better than this one. That is one of the reasons I enjoyed the TV shows as much as I did. It was nice to see Fishlegs as a soft-spoken intellectual who was known for geeking out with Hiccup over dragons. The same is true for Snotlout, who constantly clashes with Hiccup. At first, Snotlout is extremely rude and dismissive of Hiccup's techniques and ideas, but as they work together, he gradually opens up a softer side through Hookfang, and he begins to respect Hiccup more as a chief.
What is it, Snotlout?
Nothing. It's just... Well, it's nice to have you back.
While Hiccup begins to understand the pressure Snotlout's father, Spitelout, frequently puts on him, mirroring him and his own father Stoic to some extent.
What is it?
I'm just thinking of what might have been. You broke my heart, Thor. You broke it right in two.
I enjoyed witnessing the playful side of Astrid and Hiccup's friendship. Both in Riders and Defenders of Berk, they came across as pals who plainly had a thing for each other, while keeping their individual identities.
Good, so where were we?
You were about to tell them that they have nothing to worry about and you have everything under control.
All right, people, you have nothing to worry about and everything is under control.
One of the flaws in How to Train Your Dragon 2 was that I felt Astrid's character was brushed under the rug simply so she could be Hiccup's fiancée/wife. In How to Train Your Dragon 2, she just talks about Hiccup and her worries for him. She never really talks about anything else. If I had to choose between How to Train Your Dragon 2 or 3, I'd go with the shell of herself she is in the second movie, because at least she's concerned about Hiccup and isn't talking down to him. In the TV series, the twins are still quite goofy, but they prove they aren't just simple idiots, and they can be more than capable of pulling off schemes and being useful in battle. Ruffnut is actually rather clever. She purposely frustrates her opponents by acting stupid in order to mislead them and frustrate them, so she can distract them or gain intel on their plans.
When are Hiccup and the others going to attack?
Tonight. They attack tonight.
You see, brother, I told you she would be reasonable. Move the elite guard into...
Oh, no, wait. No, he attacks tomorrow.
The longer you watch the show, the more you'll notice each dragon's personality is mirrored by their riders. I love how Meatlug is a darling who enjoys playing with the village kids, and I love how Hookfang is just as rude as Snotlout.
Hookfang, get your butt over here! He'll be back.
I also love how Stormfly is as tough as nails but softens up whenever Toothless is near. And despite actually being the same dragon, Barf and Belch will fight with each other, just like the twins. It's really nice how all these side characters and their dragons have so much personality. So it was a punch in the gut to see all these fun characters get beaten down as badly as they did in the third film. Particularly Snotlout, if I'm going to be honest. Snotlout develops a crush on Hiccup's mom for the sake of comedy in this film. The whole joke is just out of place and weird since Snotlout cried at Stoic's funeral and Hiccup is the chief of Berk, and supposedly Snotlout's friend. I would have enjoyed all the films more if they had used some of the characters' development in the show and used it to make them more well-rounded in the movies, to actually make them enjoyable to watch rather than annoying. The side characters in the films were never really written well, but it is much worse in the third film. And it hurts. They all deserved better, especially Snotlout and Ruffnut. There is no character to the Light Fury. The Light Fury feels extremely bland. She has little to no personality. All we know about her is she wants to entice Toothless back into the wild of dragons, and that Grimmel sent her there to lure Toothless away from Hiccup. I always loved Toothless because he had so much personality. His loyal and sassy nature was really enjoyable to watch. I would have preferred it if the Light Fury had just as much personality as him. Something that Toothless could bounce off of to make their relationship way more intriguing to watch. Watching the Light Fury and Toothless flirt was painful because Toothless comes off like a goddamn moron, like the marketable dog he's turned into. Especially the scene where the Light Fury just hangs from a tree because she wants nothing more to do with him, so Toothless starts bouncing on the tree with his stupid smile on his face. It's genuinely painful. The Light Fury's whole design seems very Barbie doll-esque. She's exceedingly smooth and glittery, she has tiny feminine feet, and on top of it all, it looks like she has goddamn eyeshadow. The one plus I can give to the Light Fury as a whole was her translucent skin, which can allow her to become invisible. It's kind of a cool ability. It was also neat to see her teleport through lightning, but it loses its magnificence when Toothless learns to do it in less than a minute. Why was Grimmel more threatening than Drago or the Red Death? The Red Death was just that, a terrifyingly large and dangerous dragon who had the personality of a royal tyrant. In my humble opinion, I think she was the coolest villain in the How to Train Your Dragon films. Drago was insane. He wanted to kill the dragons because they had killed his family and taken his arm, which is a nice contrast to Hiccup. He was violent, intimidating, and insane. And he forces Hiccup's best friend to kill his dad. That is beyond sadistic than just to do it himself. Sadistic it was, he was also trying to break Hiccup's spirit and the love of his dragon. So there was a point to the brutality. What was Grimmel? A dragon hunter with 2 death grippers, who were apparently naturally evil dragons. It's on page 109 of the art book. I'm not fucking with you. He hates dragons, especially Night Furies, because he thought he killed them all, which seems a tad unrealistic to be completely honest. You would have thought he'd be slightly more interesting for someone who's responsible for killing all the Night Furies, except Toothless. Grimmel represents the path Hiccup never chose, which was to hunt down and kill all the Night Furies as a dragon hunter. Grimmel was originally intended to be the same age as Hiccup in the initial designs for the 3rd movie, but they adjusted him to be older. Honestly, I would have preferred him to be the same age as Hiccup. It would be kinda like Miles vs. Miles from Spider-Verse 2. Even if Grimmel wasn't made younger, and they kept him how he's presented in the 3rd film, it would have made more sense if Grimmel had killed Toothless's immediate family. That way Toothless could have a personal burden with Grimmel, and it would have seemed more realistic than if he just killed all the Night Furies. I genuinely can't think of anything cool or interesting about Grimmel. He was such a forgettable villain, it makes me wish we had a villain from the TV series to take his place. How the flying fuck was this character more threatening than the Red Death or Drago, for that matter? Remember that pumped-up speech that Hiccup gave at the end of How to Train Your Dragon 2?
Oh, sure, they have armies, and they have armadas, but we have our dragons!
That means nothing now because Grimmel exists. It hurts so much since Grimmel is such a lame villain, and he was supposed to be the one to make the dragons go back into hiding. He's just not that interesting or intimidating. He doesn't do fuck all besides making the Barbie doll dragon go after Toothless and listening to Ruffnut being annoying. The concept of the hidden world is really cool. I love the fact that it's underwater and how it has a coral reef design. The colors were beautiful and the concept was so unique. This would have been an amazing place to finally find the last of the Night Furies. Toothless having a love interest is excellent. I just wish Toothless had acted like himself, and the love interest could have been more interesting. Seeing Hiccup and his kids was cool, although I hate them in Homecoming. And that one joke about Tuffnut saying the world is round and no one believing him is pretty funny. My Universe in a Box brought up an excellent point towards the end of the film.
Why not just move to the hidden world? This was Hiccup's entire idea, and he was constantly ridiculed for it, but honestly, why? I've seen this suggested by a few people now, and honestly, it would have been pretty neat. When Hiccup and Astrid first find the hidden world, they are met with hostility by the dragons. Toothless has to save them, and they leave the place. And hey, isn't this similar to how in the first film, dragons coming to Berk were met with hostility by the Berkians? So wouldn't it be kind of a fitting narrative choice to have the dragons learn, via Toothless, that the Berkians weren't out to hurt them?
In the book series of How to Train Your Dragon, all the dragons do eventually go into hiding to avoid human conflict, but the individual dragons get to decide whether or not they go into hiding or stay with their humans. Why couldn't have something like that happened in the film? It would have been a great place to finally see all the Night Furies. Why couldn't there be Night Furies in the hidden world? I don't know about you, but I wanted to see Night Furies. It kills me that Toothless is the last one. They've been building up the idea of other Night Furies for years, and it just doesn't go anywhere.
Maybe we'll finally track down another Night Fury.
An entire island exists teeming with mysterious night furies. I call this land the Isle of Night. We have to find that island. If we do, we find your family.
The hidden world idea could have been where the last of the Night Furies went to hide from Grimmel. This would have been the perfect opportunity to bring the Night Furies, but we got the Light Fury instead. And she's not a Night Fury, she's a subspecies. If you look in the background, there are other Light Furies. This movie could have been better if more thought and care was put into the characters and what they stood for. Toothless would never abandon his best friend for a dragon he has just met. Hiccup would not have been brought down by a lame-ass villain after accomplishing so much. Velka would not be the first to submit to abandoning the dragons after the 20 years she spent living among them. In a better written script, the side characters would have been written more like they were in the TV show, to actually bring something of value to the film. And instead of Grimmel, we would have had someone like Vigo. Things could have been better, but at least we had the first two films to appreciate. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I recommend watching My Universe in a Box's video on the third film. They are much more organized than I am. Regardless, thanks for listening.